On Monday, February 13th, a gunman walked into Berkey Hall on the Michigan State University campus and shot and killed two students. He then went to the MSU Student Union, where another victim was found. At the end of the horrific ordeal, 3 students had been killed and 5 others sustained critical injuries, not including the perpetrator, who fatally shot himself off campus. Monday's shooting is the 67th mass shooting, which is defined as an incident in which 4 or more people are shot or killed, so far in 2023 in the United States. That means that there have been more mass shootings in 2023 than there have been actual days that we have lived in this calendar year. The tragic part is that for the victims of those 67 mass shootings and for the victims of the MSU shooting on Monday, they don't get to see that trend reverse. They don't get to beat out that statistic. Those days were robbed from them. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this special discussion on the Waiting Table podcast. Discussion, reflection, it's hard to really find the words to talk about what we're actually doing now. At the Waiting Table, we ask people to join us after the end of their busy day and to take a seat at our collective table where we discuss topics that directly affect our bariatric community. But we felt it was important to acknowledge that we are more than just people on social media. We are more than Transformation Tuesdays and Face-to-Face Fridays. We're human beings, and like everyone else, when tragedy strikes, we're deeply affected. Our goal when creating the Waiting Table was to give people a place where they could connect to others and where they would never feel like they were going through the journey alone. Tonight, we honor that goal. Shay.
Thanks. I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. I did want to make sure to announce a trigger warning. A lot of what we'll probably talk about will be really hard to talk about and really hard to listen to. And if that's not a space you're in to kind of listen to that, that's totally understandable. When stuff like this happens, there's just a lot of emotions that come with it. And really, I think our purpose and goal here tonight is just to hold space for that. I don't know if we'll have a lot of people join live, but it can be uncomfortable sitting in tough emotions. And I just feel really honored and grateful that Murph and Elise are here to kind of share their experience and debrief a bit in more of like a public way. And so with that, please be kind and respectful and just honor that, because a lot of times when there's big emotions present, it can get spiky, it can get heated, it can get uncomfortable. And so I just wanted to keep that in mind. So Murph and Elise, thank you for being here. And I don't know, where do you guys want to start? Do you want to kind of share where you guys are at, what you're feeling? We didn't plan any of this. We really wanted it to be an open talk. So I'll leave it to you guys to share.
Yeah, I mean, up until this afternoon, we were just going to get together for a kind of Valentine's Day episode and meet Dylan for the first time.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan. And Shay's husband. And Rob and Shay came to me and said, you're hurting and we want to support you. And so thank you for doing this. Thank you for Dylan for, and I know Dylan, you were really excited to have the spotlight on you tonight. From what Shay said, it sounded like you were a little scared, but that's okay. I'm glad you're here, and it's nice to meet you. And I lost my whole train of thought. I'm thankful for you guys. And Rob, what you shared was beautiful and perfect. And I can't thank you guys enough for thinking of us and using this platform to hopefully continue to still help somebody, maybe not in the bariatric community, but in all walks of life. And that's, definitely the point of this, is sitting at our table and just talking and just doing life together. So thank you.
Well, and that's again goes to the goal, right? Of we're all humans first and foremost. We have shared experiences. For us, it's bariatric surgery. Good, got the Kleenex box. I have mine right
Gotta
close.
get the Kleenex.
And uh, you know, it's this is just an opportunity to honor that, right? And to be humans first. And I'm just thankful that we can do that. So
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to talk about your experience? Because
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I guess for starters, yeah, I'm wearing the Michigan State Spartan. It says Spartan Strong, and I am not a Spartan. I'm actually a U
you
of
mean you
M
live in
fan.
Lansing, so by
But yeah,
by proxy, you're a Spartan.
yeah, we've lived here for 3 years. A lot of our friends um,
Go to
really go to
MSU. Are there
MSU.
MSU graduates?
Yeah, we work with a lot of people who have come out of MSU, and so we have strong ties to this community. The social coaching autism group that I teach is on the MSU campus. We tour MSU. We walk around MSU. It's a beautiful campus. We go down to eat sometimes at our favorite spot, Beggar's Banquet, on campus, and it's just a beautiful place. And so we feel very connected to Lansing. We someday hope, for warmer climates elsewhere when Elise is out of nursing school at LCC. Um, but for now, we call this place home, and we take that very seriously. Especially in our neighborhood and in our community, we have a lot of parties here. We're the party house. We're the Harry Potter house in Lansing. And we just love people. We love this community. We love to get involved. We go to every protest and rally we can. Um, we make new shirts. We support. And so, yeah, we're not Spartans, but we are. And we're here to support Michigan State. So just that little disclaimer. I never went to Michigan State. Go blue.
I
Sorry.
can't afford Michigan State, or I would go there.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe one day.
maybe someday. Um, But yeah, so Winnie and I went to a daddy-daughter dance on Monday night, and that's when this all took place. We left the dance right around 8 o'clock. So we were downtown, which is just a stone's throw from here, maybe 5 minutes. And we were at the convention center, Michigan Avenue. Our main street is Michigan Avenue. Michigan Avenue stops at MLK. It goes around the Capitol building and then picks up again on the other side of the Capitol building and then goes east. And so we're on West Michigan Avenue. This all took place on East Michigan Avenue. Um, so so Winnie and I are on the east side, and I said, hey, let's make a night of it. Let's go get some ice cream. And I know she likes mochi balls, and so we went over to the Meyer Marketplace. It's newer downtown, and we're eating our little ice creams, and sirens just start blaring, and which is not uncommon for the capital city. But it was a lot of really fast moving vehicles, ambulances, and didn't see any fire trucks, which led me to believe that it was not,
Right.
a car accident or a fire. Typically, working in the medical field, you just kind of pick up on those things. When they call the fire trucks, it's because they, have a different situation. But
Jaws of life.
yeah, you need the jaws of life. It's a car accident, or you got to block off the highway, and we're right by the highway too. So seeing a lot of police cars and a lot of ambulances, and that's never a good sign. So we left, and as we're leaving, more police cars are coming, and Winnie's, pointing it out, there's more police cars, and their sirens are blasting, and they're running through the lights, and so we got home and didn't really think anything of it because it's Lansing. So I'm editing a video, and Marie was here. You were studying with Marie. She left, and maybe 5 minutes later, um, I saved the video. It was getting ready to post the video of our fun night, and we get this text: mass shooting.
Anne Marie called me.
Anne Marie called you. mass shooting, all hands on deck at the hospital. We need any bodies that we can get come in and help. And so we didn't know what that looked like. We hadn't heard anything yet, really, but
It was like an out of body experience.
it was just kind of crazy.
Like I felt like we were in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Like this doesn't happen here.
Yeah, it was very different. It was a first for me. Um, to have to work at a place like a hospital. I've always worked in schools with children who have autism. So this is this whole, I started at the hospital in September. I'm fairly new. I'm a nursing assistant, um, and so I love it. I absolutely love it. And so I knew this was an opportunity to help my community, help my hospital, help my teammates there. I love everybody there, and I knew I'd be working in the ED, the emergency department, and that's one of my favorite floors. So it was just kind of a no-brainer. It's a win-win-win-win-win. I'm going in, and so went in and just saw everybody on police scanners, with their earbuds in or their phone up to their ears, and everybody's listening to the same police scanner, and we're monitoring, and they're having talks, big talks, group conversations, 100 staff members surrounding the nurses station, and it was very out of body. I just couldn't believe I was there. Um, the whole community just really came together to do what it, whatever necessary to um, to help, these students. And at that time, we'd heard that there were 5 gunmen and then
Yeah,
three
it was like
gunmen,
it was really chaotic.
and then there was a red Mustang, high-speed chase, and then there was a white SUV, and it was just chaos.
I
It
think
was,
I think that's the thing though. Like when you hear about these situations from states away, you hear kind of after the fact more than during the fact. And so I don't listen to police scanners from other states when stuff like this is happening. So actually listening to the police scanner, like they're not only getting calls about the shooting, but they're also getting calls about multiple other things that are happening in the city. So we're hearing all of these things and like trying to decipher what's related and what's not related and what's true, and like people are calling things in that maybe not on purpose aren't true, but like I feel like when you're in that situation, I mean, loud noise is a gunshot, like, and you're calling the cops because there's a gunman on the loose. So it's just like
there,
really
yeah,
chaotic.
there was a call that somebody was shooting off fireworks. There was a call that there was a bomb threat, that somebody placed a bomb, and
Yeah, there's
the
explosives.
fireworks were actually explosives going off. I mean, there were just so many calls. It was just insane. But we had to listen. I mean, all of us at the hospital, we had to listen to see what was coming in, um, because some of those calls could be ours too. So we're not a level 1 trauma unit. We're a level
Two, I
two,
think.
2 or 3. 2. Okay. So Sparrow is the other hospital, and that's downtown, and
Right by campus.
right by campus. And so we to get to the daddy daughter dance. No, I didn't go past Sparrow. So it's
That's
just
right by there.
it's further down. So yeah, it's further down on the east side, but it's the bigger hospital. It's been here for a while. Um, and so McLaren has been here for a while as well, but this is a new building. And so the McLaren campus that we work at is technically MSU campus. Michigan State was the last Big Ten university to get their own hospital, and that's our hospital. But it's a level 2 trauma center. So what we had to do was prepare for these victims to go to Sparrow, and then everything else from the city
They
was coming to us.
Yeah, they closed down their ER, so
They shut, yeah,
everything that would go to Sparrow normally came to McLaren.
yeah. So that was,
Made it real.
it made it very real. I'm glad that I didn't have to see these kids, coming through that bay door. Um, and I was glad to be there and be a part of it and be helpful. Um, and it was just a very surreal experience, and to see it all just kind of unfold in real time, Yeah, I mean, one of the things we talked about, Elisa and I went live with Marie last night. Yeah, wow, it seems like days ago. Um, one of the things we talked about is like it's yeah, if it's not in your community, like thoughts and prayers. We send a lot of thoughts and prayers, and I can see why that's getting old. I can see
It's
why
not to
that's
say that it's not
no
genuine.
super helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it is
mean, please
genuine.
pray, and good positive thoughts are always needed. But it's like, yeah, we're pissed off because we just don't want any more thoughts and prayers. We just want some action because we've got kids that go to school here now. We've got kids that walk up and down the street. CJ wanted to go for a walk to decompress yesterday. That's what he does. And I had to tell him, man, not today. Let's wait on it. Um,
I mean,
and
he's almost 17. Like he's gonna go to college soon. That's scary.
he's 17. Aiden's 14. I mean, they're both about to be 17
17 and
and
15.
15. Um,
It just feels a lot more real
it's just
when it
it's
happens.
so close to home and so close to home, like so close to like our lifestyle and what we do, and what we want for our kids. We want our kids to go to Michigan State or any college, but it's like it's just this is the world we live in, and when it hits you like that, like this could be us. I mean, all three of these students that lost their lives were like elite, top of the class, like just
Fraternity,
amazing fraternity.
theater, future pediatrician.
Yeah,
Like,
a future. Yeah. Is it Ariel?
yeah.
Was going to school to be a pediatrician, and she was great. Um, Jake,
Alexandria was, I think, on a sports team.
she played basketball, and
And
the
Brian was the head
superintendent
of
the
the.
superintendent of her school today. I saw an interview. He said you didn't want to play against her because she was a force,
It's just weird when you
and Brian was
the head
uh,
of the fraternity,
head of
his fraternity.
the fraternity, and just great kids, and God, it's just it's a crushing blow of reality that you just don't want to face ever as a parent, as a medical health worker, um,
Community member.
as a spouse, because Elise is in school. She goes to LCC, which is just
Miles
right
away.
there. It's across the street from the Capitol building, just a few miles away from Sparrow, and just a few more miles away from where this all went down from the MSU campus. And then yeah, and a lot more unfolded on that today, and maybe we can talk about that later. But it's just we want something different to happen for our community because we love our community, and we see the amazing people in our community, and I think one of the speakers today at the rally said it best, that using the word resilient to explain our
Survivors of.
children needs to stop because they shouldn't have to be resilient. They don't.
She said resilient just means that you survived it. Like that's.
It doesn't give you an extra backbone. It doesn't give you extra bravery or courage, or
It doesn't take away trauma.
it doesn't take away the trauma. Yeah, kids to an extent are resilient.
But they shouldn't
fall,
have to be.
they slide down the slide and fall on their butts, and they get back up, and they're bouncy. Yeah, but when you've lived through,
That's my new phrase now. Kids are bouncy.
kids are bouncy.
They're not resilient. They're bouncy.
They, like one of the students, a few students, but one of them, um, Jackie Matthews, I believe was her name. She was a student at the Oxford shooting just what
15 months ago.
15 months ago.
Here in Michigan.
She's survived. She was resilient in that shooting, and now she's, locked in her dorm in this shooting as well. She's been through two shootings in the 21 years that she's been on this planet. She's been through two mass school shootings. Like what? It's just awful. It just breaks your heart, and in a way that I'm not, like I said, we're not even connected to any of these people, but it's a humanitarian crisis. It's a mental health crisis. It's a gun crisis. It's all of the above.
But you can't talk about it.
But we can't talk. Yeah, you can't.
It's dicey.
Touchy subject. Yeah. But something's got to happen. And I shared in my video today. This is insane by definition. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. No, There's another incident today in New York. I don't know if you guys saw this. I just watched it like an hour ago. A crazed person in a U-Haul truck ran over 9 pedestrians, and there's a police video of this, this officer, his body cam, trying to grab kids off the street and put them in a safe place because this guy was driving around. He killed one person and injured 8 others with a U-Haul truck. Like, it's not just a gun issue. You know, it's way bigger than that. It's definitely an epidemic, or not an epidemic.
I think that's right.
Is that the right word?
I don't
Epidemic,
know
I guess.
words anymore. This week has been kind of
Pandemic, epidemic. It's just people need more hugs or love or
or medication.
medication
Something.
or therapy or something, because what we're doing isn't working. We're going insane, and this is driving more people to do more things like this, like I feel bad in a sense for the man that took these lives, because his mother passed away 2 years ago and he was dealing with some mental health issues, and I know what that feels like because I've been there. And if I had a gun 5 years ago, and I'm not a gun owner, but if I had a gun 5 years ago, who knows what I would have done to myself, or somebody else. I wasn't in that right, that mental, that right mental state of mind. But I got help, and I took care of myself, and and now I'm here to share that. There, people get dark, people get in really low places, and they do stupid things. And COVID was tough, and we've got a lot going against us, but we need to figure out what we can do together, to work together, to be positive and be there for each other, and just do better as a human race. Just do better.
And I think why topics like these are so difficult to talk about is because it can be really polarizing, right? Like it can, and I know in the past I've been really afraid to talk about things because they can be so polarizing. But when you said it really nicely, actually, Murph, it's like there's room and space for all of it, right? Like it's a sad situation no matter what angle you look at it. And it's not a matter of competing with sadness, because there doesn't need to be a competition. It's all sad and there's space for all of that. And so I think it's neat having a platform where we can talk about this in just an honest way, right? Like and like you said, I think a lot of times it's easy to demonize lots of people kind of in the mix as all of this is happening. But like, I think it's neat that you also called out too that the person who took those lives too, it's like that. It's just sad all the way around. Like it's just shitty. Like there's no other.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. And
I think today at the protests, our state representative was talking about how Michigan is like a really big gun state. Like this, people here, I don't know a single person besides myself that's never shot a gun in this state. Like, not even because I don't want to, I just haven't done it. It's like that's part of our culture here. Like we hunt and we shoot at ranges for fun, and that today, or not just today, but over the past couple of days, she's had people calling her saying, like, I love guns. I'm a Republican. Like, I want to bear arms, but like something has to be different. Like this, like it doesn't have to be a political argument. It doesn't
No.
have to be
This isn't a red or blue issue.
it doesn't have to be polarizing. Like Chris said Murph. He's Chris to me. Like you said on Instagram, like either you love kids more than you love kids dying, or you don't. And so I think as a country, a community, a world, I mean, Rob, you're not in the U.S. You know, you're not in our country, but like
Wah,
as a
wah.
world,
That's when you hit that button. Now. Wah, wah.
as a world, like we got to do something different. It doesn't have to be me against you, or you know, it's just it's deeper than that. It's about loving each other, and it's just sad. I don't know.
I know one of the things that I've been working on, and like I can't help but apply it or see it when kind of things like this happen. Either it's like, I guess, more like overt traumas or more covert traumas, is like it's when you have people that are hurting, and they don't have they weren't taught the ability on how to fully feel emotions or express those in safe and healthy ways. I don't know that that's like the only reason for things like that, but I think that's just something that I'm working on. And so it's like, that's what I think about is, what if these kids had more opportunities to learn how to be in a safe enough environment to explore difficult emotions and express difficult emotions, and they had more opportunities to have people in their life foster who they were created to be. Like, I don't know that that would solve all of life's traumas, you know, and at the same time, it just makes me wonder, what could that look like? Like, what would that be like if these people who are acting out in this way had more of that? I don't know. It's tough, but that's just like what I think about that.
I definitely don't think it's just a gun problem or just a violence problem. I think it's a combination of people not, I mean, I think if we look statistically at school shootings or mass shootings, a lot of the shooters are male. And like, oh, here I go. Okay. Like there's a lot of toxic masculinity in our country.
54.7%.
No, that was white.
Oh, that was white.
But I think there's a lot of stigma around
90,
men.
It was 95 point something percent of these shootings are male.
I feel like there's a lot of stigma around men sharing emotions like that. Like it's just not, it's not cool. It's not it's not hip, it's not okay. And like I agree with you. Like I feel like if we allowed space for that, allowed men to have more of a platform without shaming them for sharing their feelings, I'm not saying that would fix the problem, but I don't think it would hurt.
Yeah, I think that there's so many different factors to consider when we're looking at these things. You know, if you're talking about all the different, statistics in regards to things, you can look at demographics, you can look at race, you can look at age, you can look at gender, household income. There's so many different things. But at the end of the day, I think you guys are right in that outlet that these people have, or resources that they have to address some of these challenges, whether those resources aren't available because of some of these factors or whatever the case might be. That sort of seems like it is an underlying thing, or something that connects a lot of these different incidences, right? And it's tough because I don't, and I'm not going to say this just because I'm Canadian. I don't think a Canadian, I don't think an American, I don't think anyone really knows exactly how to fix it, right? And so the tough part is how do we get to that, right? And there are a lot of things that sort of go into that, which I don't think I don't think anyone has the answers to that. But I agree with you, just listening to this, and this is from me from the outside as well, right? Do we have these types of crimes in Canada? For sure, right? Everywhere does. But I do feel like I'm fairly isolated from it. Whether that's sort of the media that we live in as well, or the area I live in, whatever the case might be, that I feel, I always feel like I'm on the outside looking in, and obviously I am very appreciative of that. But it's tough to sort of hear, and for me, the biggest thing listening to you and hearing the sort of the play-by-play as we were all chatting, and then Murph's like, there was a shooting, I have to go into the hospital, all this stuff. For me, the scariest part was you talking about you were at the daddy-daughter dance. You know me, like everything for me is about my kids, right? And that for me is the scariest part. Like we've had people, one thing that we have on our area, and this is a very common thing, especially in our area too, but I'm sure with everywhere, is the whole like um, car theft rings going around, right? And in terms of people stealing trucks and all these different things, we've had people come to our doors, try to get information about everything, try to use the scanners to copy keys or whatever the case might be. And no coincidence, the next day people were stealing cars. Like we have it all on video of people stealing cars, and the amount of paranoia that builds in your community, on your street, and yourself, is nuts. So to imagine it, my community sort of experiencing what you guys have experienced, I can't fathom. It's beyond that for me. It's crazy.
Well, and Rob, you mentioned the daddy-daughter dance. The location, just 5 minutes from where all of this took place. Um, and Winnie and I being out there, and while at the daddy-daughter dance, I noticed, um, and I wasn't going to say anything to at least when I got home because it's not a big deal because it's just something that we think about, I think, all the time, maybe, just as Americans. But I never want to put my back up against the wall. I want to know where the exit is as soon as I get in there. So this was at the convention center. It was one large room with two dividers in the middle. So there's three separate rooms. And the one main large room where the DJ was where we stayed for the most of the night because it was a bigger space. There were multiple exits. I knew where the exits were. We danced near one of the exits, and I have to think like that because that's how I always think. And everywhere we go, if we go to a restaurant, I always face the door. I want to see who's coming in. I want to see the look on their face. I was at a restaurant one time, and just a little side story. I was able to see a guy walk in, and he was staring straight at me, and he was very pissed off, and he's coming right at me, very angry, and I was with a couple friends, and he walked right past me and started beating the snot out of the guy who was sitting directly behind me, like over a baby that was in a high chair, and they just started scrapping. Um, and I was able to escort him out of the building, but like I was prepared, and I just feel more prepared, and that's always just kind of, I don't know, been my mindset, is like I've always just, that's like the gentleman thing to do, also is to always face the door, I guess. But I think my grandmother taught me that or told me that or something. So I just always did that. But as I got older and I have kids and a wife, and now I see the importance of always keeping an eye on that door. And that's just part of the society that we live in. And had something happened at that daddy-daughter dance, just 5 minutes up the road from where this all went down, um, it could have been a completely different story. But still a story that's going to get dismissed after a week or so. Or, they close down the schools for
today.
they closed down, yeah, they closed down Winnie's school. All the Lansing public schools were closed down for one day, and then at least had to go back to school today. MSU had today off.
MSU has the week off,
Do
which
they have
I
the week off now?
think
Okay.
that's
It was 2 days. It was just two
very
days.
recent.
They were gonna start school again
That was the
tomorrow.
bare minimum for them.
Okay.
They're back on Monday.
They're back on Monday, so they get the rest of the week off. Um, but even yeah, it's just crazy
I think
that's the world we live in. Is you got to be very um, aware of everybody around you, and you got to look at everybody, and you try not to make pass judgment, and you try not to think like, oh, that guy looks like a shooter, or that guy looks like he's here to kill people. You know what I mean? You just gotta,
I think one of
I
the
don't know how to navigate that.
one of the hardest things, and that I feel like you can relate to, I mean, I feel like everybody can relate to this in some way, is like, how do you cope with this in a healthy way? Like, how do you not binge eat or drink
Yeah.
or like, Like my friend came over last night and we drank, and then she came over today and we drank
Drink.
because we're numbing ourselves because we don't want to think about it. Like,
Yeah.
And I ate.
I just
And I ate.
this morning we had to go take an exam, and I was like, I don't even care how I do on this exam. I don't even care. If I fail it, that's great. I don't care. I want to take it as fast as possible to get out of my school as fast as possible to get back to my house where I can lock my doors and feel safe as fast as possible. And then I'm gonna do whatever I can do to make myself forget about this entire situation as fast as possible. And it's just like, how do you move on from this? Like, how do you go about living your life after something like this happens in your community without turning to not healthy habits?
Especially with me standing outside your school, like there's another concern, that the school door wasn't locked.
I mean, that's in
Yeah.
general. Like, how does anybody cope with this? Like, how
Yeah,
do schools cope with this for their students? How do students cope with this? How do
teachers.
family members of students, like, how do parents of students cope with this?
How do
Like,
you?
if I had a college student right now, I don't even they would never go back to college again. Like, if my kid was at MSU, they would never leave my house. Like, I don't like, how do you move on from this and do it in a good way? Like, yeah, there's crisis numbers. They keep sending us these numbers to call on our emails, but like, it just feels very not supportive. I don't know.
It's very
Performative.
it's performative. It's a formality. It's something that they have to say. They're it seems very what is it, like, not tongue in cheek, but just very, just like, oh, here's a number to call if you're feeling this way. And it's like, but 100% of the people there are feeling that way. Like, they are feeling that way. So instead of just assuming that they're not, or assuming that they are, why don't you actually just do that thing, or make that part of the class, or, at the end of the class, 10 minutes, a wind down period, or, 10 minutes before the class starts, we're gonna, let's talk about some, uh, making choices, or thinking positively, or, incorporate it into the program somehow, because every single person in your class today did not want to be there. Nobody wanted to be there. Everybody was scared. MSU students are going to be scared on Monday. They're going to be. Nobody's going to go in there and be like, "Oh, I got this. Everything's fine." You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to go in there and conquer the world. And, I'm here for this class, and I'm going to major in this and minor in that. Like, they're not even thinking about that anymore.
So you're just in a constant state of like survival mode.
Yeah, it's that.
But then you lose, again, like, it just comes down to how you cope with
Look
it.
at me being resilient. Yeah,
Hmm.
like, no, it's like, let's be real. Like, this is causing some serious mental damage and mental harm.
And like I said last night, like, this conversation's not going to fix it. The conversation we had last night's not going to fix it. Like,
Protesting,
going to the
going to the
rally's not going
rally.
to fix it. I don't know what's going to fix it.
But it's
Like, this is-
contributing. And that's the thing, even if it's not going to solve it, like, there's no such thing as silver bullets for most things. Like, and one thing that, as you guys were talking, something that's helped me with coping with trauma is just understanding it a bit better. And so I thought I would give some language, maybe, because once I kind of understand why I'm doing certain things, it allows me to have more grace for myself with that. And then it can give us some tools to not solve the problem, but at least cope, like with what you were saying. And so one of the tools that I find is really helpful, I know there's a name for it. It's kind of, if you're listening to this, it's a little hard to describe because it's kind of more visual. But if you picture your hand here, and this front part, like your knuckles, is your prefrontal cortex of your brain. And if you open your hand, like you're holding out a number 4, and you're looking at this part here, this is your amygdala of the brain. The prefrontal cortex here is your rational thinker. It's what, problem solves, what calms your body down. And the amygdala is that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, stress response. And so when we have trauma hit, I think the term that's used is you flip your lid. So you flip it, you're acting from your amygdala. So you don't, that's why when situations like this happen, you fall into that usually fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And what happens is after years of trauma, and again, that could be mass shootings, or that could be alcoholic parents, that could be not letting yourself feel emotions because you were never taught that. When you have that trauma constantly entering in, you are flipping your lid all the time. And what happens after years of doing that is it takes a long time, if ever, to fully get back to that prefrontal cortex. And that's why you have symptoms like feeling tired and lethargic. You can't think straight because instead of operating from here, you're always kind of floating. And that's why that hypervigilant, like what you were saying, Murph, of like, I'm always looking for exits. Like, and I get that because it's like, that's just being safe, you know? But a lot of that comes from being in that constant place of never being able to feel safe enough to think and function from your prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
Another thing is when you look at your nervous system and how it functions, we have our sympathetic nervous system and we have our parasympathetic nervous system. Our parasympathetic nervous system is that rest and digest state of being, and the sympathetic nervous system is that stress response. And so there are some techniques that you can do to try to get your body to transition from that from the sympathetic nervous system to that parasympathetic nervous system. And again, this isn't going to solve all of the problems. It's not a tool to suppress emotions. What it does is it just helps our bodies regulate a bit more so we don't feel as much of a need to cope with things that we know don't feel good to our body. And so some of the little things that you can do to kind of make that transition is breathing. And I know that's like when before learning more about like meditation and kind of the research behind it, I'd kind of roll my eyes when I'd hear that, right? Like, oh, meditation, okay. But it really does indicate to your body to do that, to transition. So I do like a 4-4-4 breath. And maybe we can do that at the end of this or something, and I can walk us through a little meditation to help. But, and then another thing too, that I do quite often is actually taking a minute to look at something that's farther out in your peripheral vision. So for us, we live in Oregon where we have like beautiful mountains all around us. And there's research out there that shows just by looking at those mountains, I don't know exactly what the time was in the research, but just by looking at something like that for just 10 seconds can help indicate that to your body to kind of transition. Or if you're in a place where you can't look outside, looking down a hallway, looking something that's in the distance. All of those things just help our bodies kind of regulate and get to a place where we're not feeling like we have to fight, because as humans, we're not designed to feel like we're getting attacked by a bear 24/7. And that's really what we're acting from, that amygdala a lot of times. And so, again, not that it solves any of the problems, but it makes total sense that brains are feeling fuzzy. It's like, it all makes a lot of sense. So just knowing that, for me, it's like, okay, I'm not crazy for, being more sharp or wanting to eat a lot or cope. It's like, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
So two things that I've noticed. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Elise.
No, I was just saying it makes you feel more normal to realize that it's not just in your head.
Yeah. So two things I noticed. First off, I thought that Shay, when she was doing this, I thought she was going to start forming it into this one and then bring another one. And I was just like, oh, that's tricky. Okay. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. I thought you were going to ask for participation and then you're going to ask everyone to. And then I was going to realize. So that was my, my amygdala being like, no, fight that. And then flight. And then quickly. And broadcast.
No hard hands. No hard hands for you.
But then the other thing, Elise, you had asked, how does anyone cope from this? And I think, you guys are doing what you can, and what you feel you can do. And even though you may not feel like it's going to change anything in the long run, which it may or may not, right? You never know. There's always a lot of other things, right? What you can do is you can change how things are affecting you, right? And how you manage everything, right? And then I think, Murph, you've had to do a lot of this over your journey with weight loss. I'll bring it back to this because it's something that we know over the past X amount of years that we've been, on this fight. And a lot of it is about changing your perspective and the way that you're looking at things. And, I constantly will tell my wife because, we're going through some things as well, just with health overall with our family. And it's very stressful. There's a lot of things, a lot of factors, a lot of stressors out there in the world. But I always ask her, you know, for sure, take the time you need to react because that's going to be a natural part of our processes and how we manage everything. But then after that, take the time to actually have the conversation with yourself and ask, how is this serving me? Right? How are you going to be able to process things if you're not able to sort of understand, you know, you may not be ready to start moving forward to that point where we're healing and managing, right? I would have done the exact same thing as you, Murph. I would probably been eating like crazy. I've had that happen, and it hasn't been as a result of a stressor as big as something like that. But just know that there's going to come to a point at some point where you're just like, okay, well, I've accepted everything. I'm doing what I can. What can I control and what can't I control? And there are just so many different things you can't control out there. So it's sort of looking at what do I have the power within myself to control. And a lot of times is that for me, and this is the discussion I have with my wife and with my kids all the time, what you do have control over is the way that you perceive things and how you let that affect you, right? Um, and so like I don't doubt that it's going to be very hard to still manage everything. You are so connected with your community and it means so much to you. You have kids in your community that are a big part of everything. And that's, I would be the same way, but I'm confident that you guys are going to start, having those conversations with each other and with yourselves about, what's best now for us to heal. The question is also going to be, when's it going to get to that point? Right. And I think that's a matter of also being patient and letting it happen when it needs to happen. Right.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and I had to kind of say it out loud. CJ, 16 going on 17. He, you know, at a young age, had to live through COVID and start to be homeschooled. He's moved back and forth from Ohio to here a couple times. There's not a lot of consistency, and now this. And so yesterday he was really, maybe it was earlier today.
Well,
His days
yesterday
were
we
blending
sat down
together.
with them and asked them how they were
We
doing.
asked them how they were doing, and they said,
I'm fine.
I'm fine." And it was like,
How are you really
okay, we're
doing?
gonna go back around the room, and how are you really feeling? And being able to express how I'm feeling, and at least saying how she's feeling, open the doorway. Because once we're honest with each other and we tell each other how we're feeling, um, that opens up a door for them to feel more comfortable to share how they're actually feeling. So I told them I'm scared, and me, I'm not scared of anything. I'll get in the shark tank and I'll wrestle alligators and I'll go zip lining and jump out of a plane, and I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm afraid of losing my kids. I'm afraid of something happening to my kids. That's the thing that tears my heart out, is when kids are being taken away from their families for no reason, or but anyways, and so he kind of asked me, we were standing in the kitchen, I think it was earlier today, or maybe it was later last night, and he just said, I'm just tired of all of this. And I said, well, what? And he said, life, just life. This is just hard. This is really hard stuff. When is it going to get better? Where's that silver lining? Or where's that, when does the trauma end? When do these things stop? And I said, the and I don't know if these are the wisest words, but I just said, the only thing we can do is just pray and change our mindset and just try to be positive and just hope that tomorrow's going to be a better day. Hope that maybe some legislation will change or something's going to happen. Hope that things are going to get better is what drives us. Hope that Elise is going to graduate from nursing school and we can, in the next year or two, maybe consider moving to another atmosphere, environment, change our,
What he's really
whole.
trying to say is we're moving to Canada.
That's what I was gonna say. All right.
Right on the border, so that we're right between Oregon and
In Canada and BC.
I don't know if I want to live on that side.
No, I don't want to live on that side. That's way too cold.
Yeah.
What?
But no, but
I don't know. It
just-
just feels like it'd be colder over there, but I guess it's all kind of
I'll
north.
turn
Right?
you guys
It's all-
around. You'll fall in love with Southern Oregon so fast. I'm not worried about it.
Listen, I would love Oregon
Listen.
or Washington. Like, oh yeah. Okay, my inner Twilight dweeb is screaming inside at the idea.
we want to
but
move to Forks.
No.
We've got
No.
forks on our side. It's a quick drive. It's cool. It's cool.
See?
Okay.
Planning my trip now. See you on the.
So I guess my only maybe good advice that has come out of this, that as I'm saying it to my 16-year-old, I'm hearing myself saying it. I'm saying, why aren't you,
Yeah.
thinking like that, and it just kind of shifted my mind a little bit, and I just thought to myself, like, that's true,
I mean,
hope. If we just that's what we're all striving for and thriving for and surviving for, is just that hope that tomorrow is going to be better. Hope that we're going to make.
hope is what drives us. Like,
Hope,
yes,
hope is what drives
we
us.
need to vote. We
Don't
need to,
lose it.
But hope is what drives us to do those things.
And-
Without
Yeah.
once you lose that, you don't have the energy to do any of the other things.
And when things like this happen, I feel like it's really easy to
Lose
run on a very short supply of hope.
Yeah.
When you see one thing after another happen, it's just like hope is lost, hope is gone, and that's when.
Yeah, you have to stop and reflect and say, okay, what can I do for me? Like, what can I control?
Well, this sounds like very synonymous to sort of where we came from, in regards to our own personal things, right? Murph, you were talking about back in the day when you were at your lowest, right? Sort of maybe emotionally, but you were also probably at your biggest physically. There was less patience in terms of where you were. You were just running low, and I would probably feel like it was safe to say that hope was very low at that time. But when, whether it was with the surgery, whether it was with a change in mindset, whether it was whatever, like, I know for me, the part that gave me hope was being able to move again. That was the part for me that opened everything up for my journey. Because, having been in a wheelchair or using a cane every day and not being able to do anything, the ability to move was the big thing that kept me moving forward. And similar to what you were saying, right, in regards to your situation, at least you're right. Hope is what gets you moving forward and propels you to do all those things that might require being done for these changes to happen, right? But that's things that you can control, right? You vote, that doesn't mean that whoever you guys vote in is going to make those changes, but you've done what you can, and you hope that what you put forward and the effort you put forward gets you to that place where you want to get to together, right? Collectively as a community.
Right.
And it's okay to, there's seasons where it's really hard to have hope. And I love the question your son asked, Murph, because I've been asking that question this week. It just in my own personal life of like, gosh, this is just like hard. Like, is it always going to be this hard? And I think I love how honest that is, because it's like, I think at least how I grew up in a very like toxic positive environment in a lot of ways, like with who I was raised with, where I was raised. And it would have just been nice to have somebody to kind of sit with and be like, yeah, man, it's like, it is sucky. And it is really hard. And I'm sitting here with you and I love you. And it's a lot. Like, I think I'm not a parent yet, but I see the pattern of where a lot of parents, I think, feel like they have to come with the answers, when really I think we just need to come like with connection. That's what I would have liked more of as a kid, of not having like a cookie cutter answer that was the silver bullet, but just like, yeah, kid, this like, life is really hard, and I'm sorry you're having to see that now, because it sucks, and I'm sorry. Ugh.
I mean, just I could see the relief kind of on his face when
Hmm.
I was real with him, and we are very real.
Yeah, Winnie, what did she just ask you? Where is
Oh, Winnie just came down the stairs, and that's why I was kind of late getting on for our little test. Um, Came down the stairs, and she said, I have," she's crying, bawling. "I have questions for the universe. What is the purpose of our soul? Why are we here?"
I
And
love
it's
her
like,
questions.
are you stalling because you don't want to go to bed?
Yeah, that's a go to
Or
sleep response.
or are are you just really sleepy right
She's a
now?
philosopher.
How
in
much
the making.
melatonin did you take?
Yeah.
Or where are you?
And he was like, I don't know.
I started to get really frustrated because I was going to be late, and I paused because I used to get so angry when things didn't just go my way, and the kids
Didn't have the answer.
would be frustrating. I don't have the answer. I don't know. Shut up. Go to bed. And I just sat down with her, on the steps, and had her, and I just said, I don't know, but this is what I think it is, and we'll figure it out together. Now go to bed. Give me a hug. Go to bed. And then like with CJ yesterday was just, and I'm not like a model parent by any means, because I've, the reason, my kids are so fickle, I think, about this whole hope thing is because I've instilled such a negative
Outlook.
outlook on life at times, in the past. And I've got a lot of work to do, but I can't go back, so I'm gonna just try to make the most of it. And so with CJ, I asked him, I think that's where it started, was in the kitchen, just like, "How are you feeling?" And "Oh, I'm fine." I said, "Really? Because I'm a mess, bro. Like I feel like crap. I feel like garbage. This sucks." And then he was like, "Why does life suck? Why does this?" And then he just starts opening up to me, and it's just like, "Oh, I think I said the right words." I was like, "Okay, it sucks today,
It'll
but
probably suck tomorrow.
it might suck tomorrow, but it doesn't have to. We can make the most of it. But let's just get through today and hope that tomorrow's going to be better." And so, on the off chance that anybody involved in this shooting, or were there, any students or anybody that's ever been in any sort of traumatic, experience, whether it be at home or at your school or job or a marriage or whatever, just I guess the thing that I'm learning just this past couple of days is how important hope is to keep going. Because like Rob said, yeah, I was in a wheelchair and you were in a wheelchair, and the idea of me getting bariatric surgery and my life changing for the better gave me hope that I could do cartwheels, and I did, and break my cane in half, and I did, and
Walk around a rally.
walk
today.
26,000 steps at Cedar Point with my kids and ride every single roller coaster. I did that because I held on to hope and I overcame these things, and so today sucks, but and we're hurting, but there's hope. There's still hope out there.
It's not forever.
This isn't the way it's always going to be.
I-
We're still gonna make our trip around the sun, and we're still gonna, the sun's gonna keep coming up, and there's still gonna be another day, and just gotta make the most of it.
It's important to acknowledge what's going on right here, though, because I feel like the statistic that was brought up at the very start, there's been more mass shootings, than days so far this year, which is shocking. But the worst part about that is it's not crazy surprising given the track record. But when we live in that state, just speaking from my point of view, you start to get so disconnected. At least for me, it's like you're seeing these articles daily, and it's you feel that, and you're like, oh, that's a bummer. But then you just kind of, and it's to be able to relate and hear from you two, and your experience of just that, that's where you're at, and it brings back like that human element to it, and more connected to it. And I'm sure no one on here has all the answers on how to solve a problem. We probably have some good ideas, but ultimately it's just bringing more connection and awareness, and we're doing what we can with the tools we have.
Yeah, I agree with you. We talked about this yesterday. Like you said, like you see it and you're like, oh, that's sad. Like, I mean, doesn't mean that it's not genuine. Like I see shootings and I feel bad for those people. But like actually living it or knowing people who live it is just, I feel like until you connect with somebody in that way, like I felt bad for people. Like we had a school shooting in Oxford, Michigan, like you said, 15 months ago. I don't know anybody from Oxford, to be honest with you. I don't even really know where Oxford is in Michigan. Like I don't know.
Like here.
Oh yeah, if
and
you
like,
take out the hand of Michigan, bam.
and like I felt bad. It was really sad. I mean, high school kids being killed for no reason. But like this is just different. And like knowing somebody or talking to somebody personally, like even today at the rally, we talked to a girl who literally was there at MSU. Like we talked to her face to face, like this close. And I was like, holy crap. Like, like this is like, this really happened. And it does. I feel like once you let yourself feel those feelings on a more human level than just seeing it in the news, it's like, it just becomes more real. I don't know.
For sure. Like I will say, like all the shootings I've heard about them. I've seen them in the news. I don't think I've been affected by any of the shootings as much as probably this one. Not necessarily because, they're all bad, but it's because I've heard about it through you guys, right? I've heard your experiences. I've talked to Murph about it, and you're right. I think we get so jaded and insulated from a lot of things that we hear, because realistically, if you were to listen and internalize everything that we hear in the news and all the bad stuff that we constantly hear, you go nuts, right? And so you have, oh yeah, exactly, right? So you have to have a way to sort of protect yourself from that, and I think that is a good thing to an extent, but I think, as Dylan was saying, we sort of just accept things, and it sort of ends up being part of it, which is not necessarily a great thing either, right? And so I really do appreciate hearing about it from you guys, and you guys sharing your experience in regards to this, because I think it brings us back to sort of the meat and potatoes of all this, right? And which is the connection with other people and empathy, which I think is a big part of it. Also, I'm very happy to hear Dylan speak. I was looking for a full hour of Dylan.
I was just gonna say
I was
that.
Like, come on, where his voice sounds?
Yeah, I'm sitting here saying it. Is Shay ever gonna let him talk?
I know. I'm just like, I was gonna be like, Shay, whisper something for him to say.
You're like, shut up.
He can say it.
Sick of your voice. We hear it all the time.
Every time I see the mute, the thing go unmuted, I'm like, here it is.
You're like, oh no.
Here he comes. Here he comes. Here he comes.
And then Shay's like, oh, silver bullet. I'm like, again, silver bullet?
Here she comes talking about the brain and trauma.
Yeah. And you said,
well, I just took an exam.
He has to hear that crap all the time from me.
Dude, man, I know.
I just took a neuro exam today, all about the brain and trauma. So,
you should
we're on the same level.
When you do it, you're going to do the exam again. You're going to run through it and you're going to think of this shit. You're like, amygdala, my frontal cortex, and you're
going to bring the two brains into
one heart.
Hey, are we going to do the thumbnail? Is this the thumbnail? Are we doing the thumbnail here? Are we get on it, Rob?
This is for. Wait, you can't do this for what we're doing. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
You gotta.
No,
He's not touching. He's not touching.
Too close.
Uh,
We can Photoshop this. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
really
very
good with
good at
Photoshop.
Yeah.
I'm great with Photoshop. I'm gonna make his fingers extra long.
I think we held it long enough.
Yeah. I just have one very long finger.
Or I'll just put a heart in the middle of the heart.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I like that. 2 brains to 1 heart. We're gonna make a shirt, guys.
2 brains.
But there's 3 of us on the.
Yeah. And then there's gonna be a amygdala.
And there's
I'll be
2
the
brains.
amygdala.
Jay's
I'll be
got
the-
2 brains, and
yeah,
you guys
I'll
have
be the fight
none.
or flight. I'll be running.
There you go.
I'll freeze. I'll just freeze.
Normalize
I'll be the
stress
freeze.
responses.
So let me ask you guys this. The whole point of having this talk, and we had talked about it this morning about, I think it was sort of not weighing on all of our minds, but we were all sort of in the same mindset of, well, what now in regards to this, in regards to the podcast, right? And in our environment, this is sort of something that's important to us, obviously, right? But we also understand that this is just one part of the bigger picture, and especially Murph's picture right now with everything that he's dealing with. And the goal was, we were just like, okay, well, we can have Dylan, and I will grill the hell out of him with questions because Murph's not going to be here. Or we can use this opportunity to sort of have this discussion, and hopefully having this discussion, being able to talk it through, process it with other people and other people out there who might be feeling similar things, it was helpful for you. So has this changed anything for you? Obviously, I know it's not going to, but was this at least helpful for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to talk about it, I don't have a therapist or a counselor, and other than just Elisa and I talking about it after the kids go to bed is, it's, but by the end of the day, I feel like we're just kind of, we don't want to talk about it. So
Yeah.
it's nice to get it out there. It's nice to, after we went live last night, we felt a little, not pep in our step, but just a little bit like of a sigh of relief,
I think
having a community supporting us is.
I think there's something to be said for having people outside of a situation validate your feelings. Like, to have people say, like, okay, what you're feeling is okay. Like, it's okay to feel those feelings, and it's not going to go away tomorrow or tonight, or like, it's okay to feel that, and we hear you. I mean, the girl at the rally today said, like, we don't need you to understand us. We just need you to acknowledge us.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like, that's true. Like, you don't have to understand something or someone to be able to acknowledge their feelings and validate that what they're feeling is okay. And I think it's helpful to have that and to have a safe community where you can share your feelings and have someone say, yeah, like, it's okay for you to feel that.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel guilty because nobody that I know was involved in any of this. Yet it's still wrecking me. It's still messing me up, and it's affecting our family somehow, even though we're not like directly involved at all. So I almost feel kind of guilty to be feeling the way that I feel. And I never want to be like an attention seeker or like just doing it, for clout or whatever. Like I don't want to, like I didn't like making that TikTok video today about Elisa's school. It's like we want to help our community, and I hope that's the thing that is heard the most. Is like this hurts us because it hurts somebody else.
Right.
That we don't even know, but we see the tears right here in our city. We see the terror. Going to Meijer today. We went to 2 different Meijers. We went to the one in Marketplace downtown after the rally, and then I went to the other one to pick up CJ's prescription. And the doors, have signs on them now that read Spartan Strong, with the logo and everything, and the whole community is just kind of rallying. And
I mean,
I don't want to seem like we're trying to like
I know people who go to
get attention or anything like that.
I know
but
people.
This is real. This is our real life.
I know people who go to MSU, and I have clinicals with girls that go to MSU nursing program. And I don't think that you have to go to a school that has a shooting in your community to feel impacted by it, because like, I feel like, I mean, my heart is broken for them. Like, my heart's broken for them. But whenever something like this happens in your community, like we don't live in like, I mean, we live in the capital city. I don't feel like it's huge, but like whenever something like this happens in your town, especially when it's like there's no motive, like he didn't go there to kill his ex-girlfriend, like he just picked this school and killed
Yeah.
these students. Like that could have been anywhere. That could have been
Mhm.
the daddy-daughter dance. That could have been my school. It could have been my kid's school. And so I think the fear and the trauma of it isn't only isolated to the students who lived it. Like, obviously, their fear and their trauma is a lot greater than mine. Like, I'm not competing with them. But I don't think it's unreasonable to be afraid or to be hurt or to be sad or to be scared. Like, that's a normal reaction, I feel like, for anybody who's living somewhere
Right.
And
where this happened.
and that's the point I'm trying to make is like
Mhm.
we're all scared. We're all going through this together. And whether you're connected or not, or whether you go to MSU or not, this is like I said earlier, it's a humanitarian crisis, a pandemic, epidemic that's, it's just scary for fathers, for husbands and wives and students and kids. Um, and
It just sucks.
it's
Sucks.
relatable
Yeah.
and it affects you still. So I can't imagine being somebody who's there and experiencing that
Yeah.
And that
firsthand.
that grief guilt is really, I see that a lot, like especially during COVID, like the people who weren't the front lines, but because I work for a healthcare system, so I've done a lot of debriefing with people that are outside. They weren't like on the front lines during COVID, where they have the same sentiment you were having, Murph, of like, I like have no room to feel guilty because it didn't affect me nearly as bad as X, Y, and Z. And again, I just want to remind everybody that there's room and space for all of that. There's no need to compete, right? Like it's hard and it's sad no matter what angle you're taking from it. And
Right.
just because I'm hurt or you're hurt doesn't mean that like my hurt is greater than yours or vice versa, right? And
Yeah, I'm not going to sit back and say that I'm not hurting or just try to rub some dirt on it and just move on with my day.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't happen to me, or and try to be tough about it because I'd be lying to myself. That's only going to cause more damage. I'd rather be open and honest. And so I think if more people do that, we'd have less of a mental health crisis if people open up, and not feel guilty. And so I guess full circle to answer Rob's question, doing this helps me because because I have feelings, because I feel, and and I want to feel, and I want to show you my feelings and tell you my feelings, and whether they're validated or not, the fact that I have feelings and emotions and I cry, that's who I am. It affects me, and to say that I wasn't there, so it shouldn't affect me. Like no, it affect, here I am. I'm telling you, I have these feelings. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's just being real with yourself, and
Yeah.
so do that if you're listening or watching. Just
Feel your feelings.
feel your feelings and talk to somebody about them because it is somewhat therapeutic. I mean, this has been, and having you guys and our bariatric community support us
Yeah, I mean, seeing
at
your
this time.
posts that are not related to weight loss and seeing your bariatric community like still being there and being there for you and commenting and talking to you and messaging you, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
not just the weight loss
My
community, it's the community of people who care about each other and love each other and are
yeah,
there for each other.
my inbox has been blowing up all day with, people sending hearts and condolences and prayers and love and support. And it's like, yeah, you go through my stories and everything is, Spartan, 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 MSU, 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 um, which is, it's a whole new mind frame. But I'm just
You're feeling your
I'm
feelings.
feeling my feelings and
That's
just
my next
being.
tattoo. Feel your feelings.
Feel your feelings.
There you go.
You can get that under your
Okay,
Yeah.
quiet.
Get it on your
That's my-
amygdala
thug,
right here.
thug, thug
Say
life.
like,
Thug life.
hey,
You're not gonna show.
feel
You're
your
not
I'm
gonna
not
show
gonna
that.
show them my
She has thug life tattooed on her hand,
Damn.
and I always call
We're
her
not
out
talking
on
about
that
that.
because
We're
that's a fun
not
one.
we're not on that level.
I want to get matching thug life tattoos, quite
I
honestly.
would. My daughter's talking
Yeah.
to me about getting a matching tattoo.
I want to
Yeah.
get one that says pug life with a pug on it.
See, I want to get hug
life.
hug
Hug
life.
life. Oh my
Oh.
god. I'm gonna get
I'm-
Thug life. Screw
I'm a
that.
hugger,
Hug.
yeah.
I want no puns.
Hug life. I'm a hugger. Yeah, I love to hug. So
Man. Well,
yeah.
you know what? I personally would like to thank, you, Murph and Elise, for sharing your experiences and feelings with us in regards to this matter. I know it's super hard. And I know obviously time-wise it's a very emotional time, very passionate time, and there's a lot of emotion from grief to anger to frustration to, everything that you're going through. But I hope it does lead back to hope. Which, from what I know and the way that you've been talking with your kids, I think it's there, and it'll take time, as we know, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I would also like to thank everyone who had left comments of support for Murph and his family and the Waiting Table family. Your support has and always will be everything to us. It's been awesome to sort of see that. We have a very good community in regards to, what we know, and the thing that ties us together, which, is weight loss and getting our health back. But it's awesome to see people show their support in other ways as well. So yeah, and Dylan, thank you very much for coming as well. We'll get you in.
Being the eye candy.
I know. See,
Next time, try not to talk so much.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah,
like, we were
yeah.
trying, and
Get down a notch.
If you
My
guys
wife
make your hair look
messaged me.
horrible, that would be great because
I
mine
know.
would look better.
Yes. Can you do that one time for us, like slow motion with volume?
Oh,
And
Dylan,
there. Oh shit.
beautiful. Look at that mane.
The comments we get about his hair all the time, like people are obsessed with him.
I want that
You
hair.
get these comments? I don't get these comments.
I know. How come you don't share those comments?
No, when we were in Mexico, no, like live action comments. This girl
Oh, that's
in Mexico. Okay, we'll end it on kind of a funny note, I suppose.
Like a
but
thirsty note.
this girl comes up to us while we're in Mexico, and she like, did she touch your hair?
Yeah,
She like
she
literally,
came up
she
and
like
grabbed you.
touches his hair, and she goes, "Don't ever cut it off." And then you look at her husband, and he lifts his hat up, and he's bald.
Oh, damn.
And it was like a weird. We were like, "What?"
At least it was only your hair that she grabbed.
I know of.
Could have been better or worse, depending on from whose point of view. Emily said Herbal Essence commercial. She also said, here from Instagram, appreciate the vulnerability in this live stream.
Is she talking about Dylan's
Thank
story
you, Emily.
about the hair? That vulnerability?
Yeah, your hair
Vulnerability.
makes our knees weak.
Well, I will say, if I'm on again, if I get invited back,
We'll see. You're on review.
if we have a little bit more of a lighthearted topic, I feel like I'd be able to contribute more. I just feel, given all that has happened, I'm thankful to be on, but I also, wanted to have space for, you guys and everyone involved there.
Well, I appreciate you being here, man. And
We can have our own podcast, Dylan. We don't even need them. It's
Yeah.
fine. We'll just shake our hair. You can't see mine. Mine's pretty, voluptuous too. So
no.
it was a great idea.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I was gonna say this is just like we're not actually having you on the show, Dylan. This is just an interview, and we're gonna call.
We're not even broadcasting.
Classic.
Well, that's great.
Classic.
The secret interview.
The secret interview.
Yeah.
You guys
We're replacing somebody on the show. Her name rhymes with hey.
And it's actually Shay.
Oh
Awesome.
man, I'm on thin ice here.
I know, eh? All right. Well, Emily, thank you very much for your comments and for coming in and joining and tuning in. And finally, thank you everyone else for joining us on the Waiting Table podcast, where we're trying to be better for all of our communities.
One day at a time and one conversation at a time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Love y'all.